Hey, everybody, it's Jeff here once again with the Money Tracker podcast. Today, we're going to have an expert interview and have my friend Richard Fowler on, who's my co-facilitator with the Austin Top Guns group. Richard is a real estate agent here in the Austin area. And today, we're going to talk a little bit about what's going on in the Austin real estate market. We talked last to Richard back in January when the market was just going absolutely crazy. So we're going to get an update on where it is and where he sees things kind of moving at this point. So stay tuned. We'll be right back in just a minute. Hey, everybody, it's Jeff here once again with the Money Tracker podcast, and I have my friend Richard Fowler on today. Richard, how you doing?
Doing great. How you doing, Jeff?
Fantastic. Richard's with Realty Austin and has been a real estate agent for how long now?
8 years. Going on 9 years. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's a blur.
And this last year, I bet especially was a blur.
It has been. It's ever since the pandemic hit, it's been an interesting ride. Best way to describe it.
So. Yeah. So what, kind of going back a year here, looking back to where we were a year ago, what was it like showing houses and trying to sell real estate in the wonderful world of COVID?
Well, we actually pivoted pretty well on that. It was funny because we all kind of, if you weren't already using technology, we all got a crash course in technology. So we were doing, Zoom tours and, everything we could to, basically be wary of the virus, and not only on the seller side, but the buyer side, and making sure we weren't bringing it into houses and we weren't getting exposed to it in houses. And we were having conversations with, our sellers about, how they wanted to go on the market, what kind of controls we could put in place to protect them and people coming in. So, it went from, forms that you had to fill out. We actually were putting out forms, Realty Austin was, that basically had a Q&A on, have you been traveling in the X number of days? How long have you, just kind of went through the whole thing about where they were, do you have a temperature, the whole 9 yards there. All the way through to us showing up to do pre-showings where we'd go in and make sure all the lights were on so they didn't have to touch light switches, and we were leaving doors open and all, just trying to limit the surfaces that people were touching, and then pre-cleaning and post-cleaning. So we went from that all the way through and pivoted. We did a lot of tours. I sold more houses sight unseen with actual physical presence in the house than I ever have, and that was kind of new. And you're always apprehensive about that because, as we all know, just looking at real estate pictures, sometimes the picture can be vastly different from the property. So
it can be a bit deceiving.
Yeah. So going in and actually doing video tours and, talking to our clients and trying to, understand, walking into a bedroom and saying, okay, we were actually doing laser measurements and stuff like that of bedrooms that they didn't have floor plans, trying to give an idea of the size of bedroom to make sure the bedrooms are big enough. I mean, it made everything a lot more complex, but we weathered that and were able to get through it.
Yeah. So what, now fast forward to this year, I know at the beginning of the year it was crazy. And you guys were just scrambling mainly because of inventory and just still a lot of people want to buy houses. What's it like today?
Well, it's, kind of going back a little bit to the beginning of this year, it was a zoo, to be honest. I mean, it was, we came out of last year, things, after everybody hit the pause button, back in March, it just took off. And, we were seeing, multiple offers and high demand, low supply, going in through last year. It really impacted the seasonality of real estate too. And then, we kind of finished off last year and we thought, okay, what's this year going to be like? And then all of a sudden it just took off again, faster than any of us expected. And, we were seeing house values go up 100 to 200K overnight. And it was, it was challenging for real estate agents. It was real. I can't even imagine what it was like for appraisers. Because there weren't any comps. I mean, there weren't any comps to show the values of what was being offered on properties. We actually, there's always the stories of the crazy outliers, but we actually had one property that got 94 offers on it in 4 days. And it was just like, so we actually, again, at Realty Austin, we pivoted and actually launched a bid platform so that we could manage that, because we are required to show every offer to our clients and help them weed through all those offers. And there's huge liability there for them making a good decision and us making sure we present all the information. So we launched a bid platform to help manage that we still use today. That was very valuable in that regard, and showing them all the offers and letting them weed through them and make sure they were comparing apples to apples as they went through. So we went through Q1 and just everything escalated. We got through that. I mean, it was not unheard of to have offers 100, 150, 200K, even more, over list. I myself sold a property probably 60 days ago, roughly, that went 300K over list. It was one of those things where, I ended up fortunately cultivated, I like to say it's a little bit of art, it's a little bit of luck, right? But if you do all the work and you prep the properties accordingly, and then you put them out there, and then you let the client, in this case, the buyers took it up and went after it. And so obviously my clients were extremely happy, as was I. But we're seeing, kind of more of the seasonality that you see in real estate, where through the summer months, especially with all the pent-up demand of nobody taking vacations and everything like that because of COVID, as the COVID numbers declined, everybody was booking their vacations and getting ready to do things, thinking, okay, we're finally going to get out. And, that even carried over as the numbers started going up. So it was one of those things where we're seeing that. So the traditional seasonality of, the summer months, people taking vacations, especially before school started, and then getting into school, we saw a dip of like 9.9% in July of home sales, which is a pro and a con. I mean, you have sellers out there that are like, well, we're staying on the market a little longer, and of course everybody gets programmed with how fast things were moving and stuff like that. I mean, still in Cedar Park, our average right now is 8 days active on the market. So I mean, it's it's pretty funny when you start laughing about what's wrong with my house when you've been on the market 4 days. You're like, no, come on. So
what's going on with it? Yeah, something's got to be wrong. It's like, okay, it used to be on the market for like 60 to 90 days.
Yeah, so we've seen the home values to continue to increase.
Okay.
Depending upon what numbers you look at, we're like 37%, appreciation year over year for what we see from last year to this year. I put out a thing in my network about making sure that you had your homestead exemption in place, and if you didn't, you better check just for protection there. So we were kind of going through all of that, but it continues to increase. But what we're seeing is, kind of been a stabilization over the last couple of months, last 60 days, where, with the vacations, everything that was going on, we saw some of that seasonality. So the multiple offers are going down. You're still seeing them, but you're not getting 90 or, even dozens at a time. We're seeing several, and we're seeing the price kind of settle in where, in some cases where you were getting 100 to 200K over a list, now we're seeing it, depending upon the market, we're seeing something like Cedar Park, it's about 45K average right now. So, but you also saw the prices come up significantly throughout the year too. So you got to realize that 100 or 200K that was earlier in the year now was list price has risen.
Now it's built into it more. Yeah.
So.
Yeah. So are you seeing, two questions. First off, I mean, are you seeing, do you anticipate kind of it picking up again here in the fall, like more of the traditional, cycle, or do you feel like it's kind of a little bit of fatigue and everybody's, everybody who's bought is bought at this point?
No, I anticipate it's going to pick up. I mean, the projections for the so-called experts out there, I track a lot of different sources and listen to a lot of different people out there as regards to what's going in the market. In fact, my brother's about to put his house on up in Dallas, and we were having that discussion about timing of the market and stuff like that. I have a few listings right now that we're looking at, mid-September to mid-October is kind of the timing that in a traditional market, that's kind of where I go on. And just so that they can have the marketing time before the holidays. And, everybody, everything lags in our industry. So when you're seeing, if you look at, June and July as being the high sales months, that's because they're closing a month before that, or going under contract a month before that, I should say. And so you see that too. So we'll see it build until the end of the year. The interesting thing is last year, typically January is the worst month to put your house on the market. Last year, it was just crazy. It's just, it was a great month to put it on because people were throwing offers like crazy. So yes, I anticipate it, to increase. We're already starting to see more listings come on. And as people get in, settled into, school and all of that, they'll start being, focusing more on real estate.
Yeah. Well, and then the foreclosure mandate now, it's been back and forth. Is it officially back on? Or that
it is.
You're in
It
Texas?
is on. Yeah, it is on. Again, you could ask 5 realtors what they think that's going to do for our marketplace and probably get 5 different answers. We're all kind of filling that out too. It'll just depend. There's so much demand out there. We actually saw, I had clients, and we actually saw in the rental market where people were actually doing two or three times the security deposits and 2 or 3 times the actual rent. So, I mean, you put it on the market and you're expecting to get $1,500. We had people coming in saying, okay, we'll pay you $2,000 or $2,500 a month to get the place. And so you actually saw multiple offers on leases out there, which was new to me. I hadn't run into that before. And I was laughing because I was trying to get some people in some leases and talking to the listing agents on those. And they were like, okay, well, what are you willing to offer? Which I thought was, hadn't been having those questions before.
Usually the question is, what is the rent? Yeah.
Yeah. We're willing to do this, we'll do, instead of 12 months, we'll do 16 months or whatever it is. But that was kind of new, where you're seeing people do stuff like that.
Yeah. That's hilarious. So, as that kind of rolls out there, I mean, what's your feelings on the real estate market from a rental, from a rental property standpoint? Is it still super high priced and you can't really make it work as far as the rents, or are the rents now starting to come up so much that it's kind of balancing out?
Well, the rents are lagging, but they are coming up. I do have investor clients that are continuing to buy properties, and we have that discussion on just about every transaction about, okay, what do you tell me what your numbers need to be or what you're thinking. Let's kind of go through this and make sure it's going to meet your needs. Then you have that discussion too about cash flowing on a monthly basis versus long term, hold and sell. So it just depends on what your strategy is there. I have some clients that are buying new, it's really hard to get new construction right now because they pretty much, the builders have blocked investors out, but there's still some properties out there to be had. We've had people in the past. I've had clients that only bought new construction and they kept, keep them from 5 or 10 years and then they roll them out. Of course, there's always that specter in the background of, when it's the bubble, when is the pullback going to be? And, if I knew exactly what was going to happen in the future, I'd probably be retired by now doing something different. But although I do love real estate, but according to what we're hearing with the businesses coming, and then the 100K plus jobs that are still coming in, just the cost livability here in Central Texas, where they're still projecting we're in a several year growth. Of course, we don't know where COVID's going, and we don't know, if something really crazy happened, how that would impact us. But at some point, we're going to have a pullback. But for right now, they're not projecting that to happen anytime soon.
Yeah. Well, I think you'll start to see pullbacks across the country in different areas where you don't have the economic drivers like we have here.
Totally agree. You'll start seeing the dominoes fall, and then that'll be one of those things where, but that's one of the things when we look at is, obviously location, and everything specific to that. We got great dynamics here. I have a client that's doing a townhome development right now, and I was driving from there. It's on the east side. I was driving from there to the Tesla Gigafactory. Have you been over there recently?
Oh yeah, we drove by. We were coming back from that the Van Gogh exhibit. And I'm like, well,
Yeah.
we'll just go up 45 and, it'll be the easy way to get back home. And I'm like, holy crap, man. You just keep driving and that thing's next to you. I think it's about a mile long at
We
least.
could almost see it from Cedar Park. I was
Yeah.
surprised. I mean, I was just, I've gone by there a few times being over that area, and I was like, my gosh, that thing's huge. And
I know.
I was looking at the land that they bought over there. They own quite a bit of land over there, so it's going to be interesting how that unfolds too. Because there's some discussion about maybe SpaceX taking some of that land or whatever.
Yeah.
Let's see what happens. But
Or just
interesting.
more gigafactory in the end, because I think he likes not having to pay taxes here. So
Well, I mean, that goes to those dynamics we're talking about. I mean,
Yeah.
there's Texas is a great place for business, and it's a great place for real estate.
Mhm.
So that, opening the doors, they're coming. So here we go.
Yeah. What do you feel like, what's kind of the next step on the real estate market here? What do you feel like for people that are maybe interested in getting into the real estate market? What do you think, kind of is their next steps at that point?
You're talking about like buying or investing in, or
investing?
So it really goes, obviously we got to stay on top of the market and watch it, the trends and things that are going on there. That's the first thing. The second thing is understanding what the individual clients, what their plan is, and kind of talking through it to make sure, first of all, they have experience in what they're doing and making sure their plan is solid. I've had some clients that have been investing for years that, we've gone back and forth on how they're going to make that work. And, in some cases they move forward, in other cases they haven't. If I have serious concerns about, the end goal on it, I will tell them I have serious concerns, and, you need to think about these things, because I don't want to put you in a bad situation. So, but we still can see, the market's still, it's just low supply and high demand. So, I mean, it's just, the investor market out there, it's like rings. It's funny because used to be, it was like the suburbia was, we'd come to Cedar Park or Round Rock or, Liberty Hill or Leander or whatever, and it keeps going out. And now we're having client discussions about Temple and Belton and Tyler and, or Taylor, excuse me, and, Marble Falls. And I mean, it's, of course, Kyle Butte has been blowing up, and, it just keeps going out further. And, I do residential, but I also do farm and ranch. So we've got, people buying up land. I'm from Lampasas, and it's funny because, that's almost a weekly discussion about what's going on in and around Lampasas and what ranches are moving.
You hadn't talked about Lampasas since you left town.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's, I laugh because when we moved back in 2004 to Austin, I was watching the news one night and they were talking about Lampasas, the place to be. And my wife and I started cracking up. They were showing downtown, Lampasas, which, unless they're from there, you probably wouldn't appreciate that as much. But I've watched it over the years. And I mean, from my house here in Cedar Park, it's 53 minutes to Lampasas. So, I mean, that's not a bad commute for a lot of people. So especially if you got land or whatever.
A good buddy of mine that just did that. He sold his house here. I mean, they made a ridiculous sale on the house here, and he's like, well, we'll just move out to Mason for a while, because they had a ranch out there in Mason. It was a small little place, and then trying to find a house out there. He's like, there's no, you think there's no supply here? He's like, there is no supply out in Mason at this point. So they're just going to kind of wait and watch.
Yeah, it's, I had that conversation with people in regards to the market, because they were like, well, we know we're going to make a killing on the market on the sell side. Mm-hmm. We also are going to give it up on the buy side. And, and what's it going to cost us on the buy side? And we'd have that conversation. I said, as long as there's not a big disparity between what you sell and what you buy, it's almost an even market, right? Because you're going to make so much more on the sell and you're going to give it up on the buy. So it just depends on how you manage through that. And Realty Austin was really good at creating some programs for us that allowed people to buy the new property before they sold their old property, even in putting it on the market. So they got creative. I mean, we all, that's one of the things I like about working with Realty Austin is that, first of all, they listen to the people in the trenches, and then secondly, they react to that and are proactive in some of the systems and programs they put in place.
Mm-hmm. Excellent. Well, and that you do have that one program, that you're just discussing there. Has that been working well for clients, especially in this fast, rapidly changing market? Or
yeah, I mean, it really, there's two facets, or at least two main facets to the program. One allows you to basically buy your new house or new property via cash, before, at no charge to you. Before, if you're living in an apartment or short-term rental or long-term rental, for whatever it is, and you're trying to buy something, it allows you to do that at no charge, which, when we were having so many multiple offers, it really helped have a cash scenario, and that, we could waive. A lot of people were waiving, their financial contingencies and things like that, financing contingencies. And so with the cash deal, you don't have to worry about that. You're already pre-qualified for that. So it allowed them to do that. I just completed one of those. And one of the great things about it is our market was appreciating so much. It actually had built-in appraisals. I would do my analysis before we made offers. Then during the option period, there was a desktop appraisal done on the property that allowed them to it wasn't a full appraisal, but it was a desktop appraisal that allowed them to kind of get more confidence that the pricing was right. All right. And it also identified any deltas there so that they could know about that before they proceeded in the transaction. And then it actually gave them, post option period, it actually gave them the ability, when they did the full appraisal, they had, I believe it's 5 days to decide if they want to go forward with the purchase of that property. So the final full appraisal validated the price point they offered, and it allowed them still to back out. There was a cost, of course, to do that, but it allowed them to back out so they didn't have to come out of pocket with that delta or whatever, really get hurt if it was way off. And so I just had a client that went through that, and I told him what I thought the offer range should be based on the comps. He made a very aggressive offer on the property. Almost immediately after he did that, and by the way, he'd lost 3 offers before that on previous transactions. Almost immediately after he did that, he had, oh my gosh, I paid too much for the property, right? And so we're having, and you're trying to manage that stress. And I'm like, well, the data shows that you did, it is what it is, but you are in competition. And so the desktop appraisal that came through literally, within 24 to 72 hours after that, validated the number he had offered on it. So it gave him a peace of mind that he didn't overpay for the property.
Yeah, but he still had an out if something happened.
Exactly. During the option period, you can exit for, I don't like the color of the door. It's like whatever it is. So you have the ability. So it gives them that more. I think it was huge in this market because with things accelerating so much and things being so aggressive, especially over list price offers, it helped calm the fears. And then we went to the final appraisal, and that validated everything else. So we went ahead and we sold the property, or he purchased the property about a month ago. So it all worked out.
Outstanding. And then on the backside of that, okay, now I've got my, I'm buying the house. On the backside, how does that program work on the sale side of your house?
Well, the one I just talked to you about was one where they were in an apartment, so they didn't have a house to sell. Okay. So that actually didn't cost them, it really didn't cost them to use the program. So they were really, and we can get into this probably in another session in more detail, but it basically allowed them to use that program and use cash and get those protections in with no cost to them. So it's kind of a no-brainer. So it makes the transaction more complex. I have to do more work for my clients, make sure we keep them on track, but it really helps them in that regard. In the other case where you have a house to sell and you want to purchase your house before that, it allows you, even before you put your current house on the market, to get qualified for the new house based on the sale of your house, and go out and buy that new house with a cash offer. And then basically what happens is, in effect, a third-party entity is buying that cash offer for you, or that house for you with the cash offer. And then they're charging you the carrying costs on a deferred rent, at the time of purchase. So you have the ability, and it's it's really perfect for COVID, because you have the ability, especially if you have kids and family and all that, you don't want people in your house, to go out, number one, and find a house that you want to buy that house, and know that you have a place to go before you even put yours on the market.
That's
and
awesome.
then go ahead and move into that other house as soon as it's closed on. And then that allows me to go in and sell your current house.
Mm-hmm.
And then however we, how quickly we, especially in this market, selling pretty quickly, how quickly we sell your current house, that's that deferred rent you have to worry about, which, in some cases can happen, within a few weeks. So it's really not a lot of carrying cost. And, when you consider that you, do it that way, it allows you to, there's no double moves, there's no warehousing, there's a lot of stress. Contingencies are not, there's very few contingencies in this marketplace. We're starting to see a few of them come back, but before it wasn't happening. All people would laugh. You put a contingency off that, they're like, no.
Done.
So this allows you to do that. And in that case, the cost to the buyer is 1% of the purchase price of the new home. So when you look at that 1%, sometimes people look at that number and they're like going, well, that's a big number. But if you consider that you don't have to move maybe a couple times, you don't have storage, all the other things that goes in, that number, a lot of times it flips the other way.
Yeah, so it's pretty cheap. Yeah, in the long run.
Yeah, and the stress along with all of that. So it can be great. Awesome. But yeah, those are couple programs that we have that helped not only with COVID, but helped with this market to give confidence to people to go ahead and make those moves. Because that's one of the things everybody says that has a house to sell. It's like, well, I know I can sell my house, but where am I going to go? Right.
Absolutely. Well, what's a good way that if somebody's got a question, what's the easiest way for people to get a hold of you?
You can call me on my cell, 512-925-5650, or shoot me an email at rfowler, rfowler, at realtyaustin.com.
Okay, cool. And we'll have that down in the show notes page as well. Richard, thank you very much. Great information. It's good to get an update on this because, it's just been such a fluid market. And I know as a financial planner, we've had clients popping up out of the blue. Oh, I want to get into real estate investing. It's like, okay, you don't do that when it's running up like crazy, and you got to buy right in this market. Otherwise, you're going to be stuck with this stuff. So, and you certainly don't want to overpay for a.
I don't think there's ever been a more important time to have a good realtor. Yeah. I mean, whether you're on the buy or sell side, and in my time, just to see, because just to what you're speaking about is to talk to people about. I actually had quite a few clients this year that I talked out of doing anything because they just weren't in a good position. So
yeah. Yeah,
so,
and they all think that they're going to lose out. If they don't do this, they're going to lose out. And it's like, okay, if you just be patient, the market will pull back at some point, and there will be those opportunities. It's just like the stock market. You don't buy Tesla after it's gone up, 400%. You kind of want to wait for it to come back a little bit.
Well, and and of course, everybody's, position is different. I mean, we got, as we know, we got a lot of people coming in from outside the state that have money that they can throw around, and a lot of the in-state buyers, don't have the funds to play with like that. So you just have to be strategic about it and wait for your opportunities that will come. And if it's something that's life-changing or something that you've got to move now, you don't have the ability to hold and wait, then we'll figure out a plan for you.
Yeah,
so
absolutely. Yeah. Well, thank you very much. Appreciate it. And folks, we'll see you back here for the next show. Once again, we always do 3 a week. One of them, we interview an entrepreneur. One, we have an expert like Richard on, and then we do our Financial Fridays every week as well. So make sure wherever you're watching this, whether it's on one of the podcast channels, YouTube, Rumble, or Vimeo, make sure you subscribe to the channel, because otherwise you're not going to know when these things come up. So thanks a lot, and we will see you back here the next time.